I hope that's kind of my hope, is that I can say something that will encourage you today, because I think that's what the Lord has really done for us in this past year and a half through some tough times. So Fountain of Life started in 2008. We're a baby church. Well, we're a teenage church. We're about 16 years old. We just had our 16th anniversary. It started in Long Beach really with the intent and purpose from the beginning to be for whatever neighborhood we were in, and to be a multi-class, multi-ethnic church. It has been that, thank God for, there's always strife with that, I think, when you have people from just wildly different backgrounds, but I feel like that's been a real blessing that we started with that purpose and started with that idea. And so that neighborhood is West Long Beach, which is a corner of Long Beach that people don't even really know is Long Beach. It's kind of like cut off by two freeways and stuff. Don't you live in Carson? I'm like, nope, it's not Carson. I'm part of your city in Long Beach. Because of that, the neighborhood has a sort of a character and a quality of being a chip on its shoulder a little bit and being cut off. And so I think coming into that, we moved there 20 years ago now, and we didn't know we didn't know the area that well. But as I said, when my brother-in-law founded the church, it was with that intent, like, we're going to be for this place. At that time, we had noticed a lot that many of the churches around Dominguez Hills, where he was a campus minister, and around our area were commuter churches. The pastor come in on a helicopter or the equivalent, preach, and then go back to Moreno Valley, or and thank God that there are people that do that. I'm glad that there are people that are willing to do that. Nevertheless, it doesn't necessarily build up that community, and that's what our community needed a lot of, was just, you're worth it, you're here, you're valuable. So one of the funny things about talking about reimagining church and innovation is that, to me, what we do doesn't seem that new, because it's just a tutoring center. It's a program that has been replicated a lot. The first time I was countered it was in Lincoln Heights, the man named Dennis Ortega, who I would happily connect anyone to. He's brilliant. He's still there. It's about 30 years now, I think. And then down the road here at Redeemer Community Church, we were part of that. There's a tutoring center. It's like a tiny space. It does amazing work. So when we started FOL, Fountain of Life, my sister-in-law immediately looked for a space to do that, because I think for us it had become so much a part of what a church just should do. You're just there. There's kids, they need help with their homework. Help them with their homework. Get to know families. It's an extremely simple thing, and we were fortunate to have this house come up for rent that had been a preschool for 30 years. So people already kind of thought of it as an educational space. It had no walls, and the lady who was retiring did not want to put the walls back up to make it saleable. So she was super happy to rent it to us. We were then able to buy it outright a few years ago. We did that rather than buy a church building, or we build a church building. We rent a middle school auditorium that's about a mile away from what is now the Family Center. So that space has become the one that's used 24/7 almost. That's the space where people collect. That's the space where people come when they need something. We don't have an office even. Tim works off the kitchen table, especially in the pandemic. But that space is our most important space, I think. And it's become very much identity. In the pandemic, we weren't sure if we could continue the programming. But our church, the congregation was like, no, this is important. This needs to keep going. So we did. The thing that I do, I came in a while after the program started, and I came in as an adult ed teacher. I taught for LA Unified for a long time. And then I came there and I said, this isn't being used in the morning. Why don't I take the morning spot and teach English? I'm bilingual completely by accident. I cannot emphasize enough how much most of the things that I do now I fell into sideways or by accident, just as God opens up different, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to do that now. Okay. So I started this program, and it in the morning. What that did, and I think what was really nice about it is that some of the parents then, who had been my neighbors who I'd waved to, my kids go to the local school, they come in the door and go, oh, you're the teacher? Oh, you know. And then their kids would start coming to the tutoring program in the afternoon. The other thing I can't emphasize enough is how simple these programs are. There is just no, Richard asked me to speak about this after the event in July, and I was like, all I can say is it's just not rocket science. There's a little house, you know, we invite people into it, and that from that comes everything else, really, right? It's extraordinarily simple. I think it's really effective. So ESL in the morning, in the afternoon we have K through 5 tutoring and one evening a week homework help for middle school, high school students. Yeah. We now actually have another space where Tim is actually running a food pantry that was just a response to the pandemic. I mean, all of things are kind of responses to what do you need, what do you want? So I started teaching ESL, got to know some families. After the pandemic, started co-directing the tutoring in the afternoon. We get volunteers. I mean, these are volunteers from church. They're volunteers from college campuses. Boy, I just heard something in Laundry Love. I was like, ooh, we need to get our whole city involved in this. You know, I think there are people in churches that maybe can't, but they might have volunteers that would want to come in. So, you know, that would be awesome. From the ESL program, of course, I started learning about immigration. Because I started finding that I could not answer questions, because this is what happens too, is that people go, what do I do about this? I'm like, my favorite when I was 25 years old, someone said, I'm getting divorced. Do you know a good divorce lawyer? I'm like, no, I'm 25. I don't know what to tell you, you know. But you get asked these questions, so it's important to have resources in your back pocket, obviously. But the immigration law one became something that was important to me personally. So I studied immigration law, sent in my application to get accredited in February of 2020. Have not heard from the Department of Justice since then. You know, I hope someday, but we'd love to offer immigration legal services as well. Again, just kind of one need. I think what he said in the video is super important. One need shows you another, you know. So did I say enough about the programming? I mean, it's really simple, there's not much. It's really, really simple. We train our volunteers, we do, in how to help kids, you know, because some people want to come in and say, do it like this. I'm like, no, let them figure it out, you know. The takeaways for me, so I asked us to kind of think about what are the things we've learned or some of the takeaways. I think the first one is it can be real simple and extraordinarily effective if you choose a neighborhood and you're for that neighborhood primarily. Anybody that goes to FOL knows that. They know that if they come from Torrance, they come from here, they come from there. But they know that we're not going to be going to Torrance to do ministry. We are for that neighborhood, and they know that. And now the neighborhood is starting to know that. It's taken a while. And that's one of my major takeaways, I think. When we were young, like in the 80s and 90s, we were influenced a lot by the Perkins family, John Perkins from Harambe Christian Center. His son, Derek, said something to us that was so profound, which was, you can go to a neighborhood idealistically with your bright eyes and stay for a year, and you will hurt people when you leave for a year. You can go for 5 years and only hurt a couple people, but you'll still hurt them when you go. 10 years, you might have an effect, but really 20. You know, we took that very seriously. I think that especially because I was coming into this from my background in Olympic National Park, that's where I grew up. You know, I'm coming from worlds away. Why would anybody trust me? It takes so much time for people to know you're actually committed to them. And that's, I think time is almost more important than, is that true? Is it more important than innovation? I don't know. But I think innovation is awesome. Sorry. It's like, I think innovation is great. I think time is more important in some ways, and relationship. I had a guy come in to drop off his niece, who said, "You were here with English." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Where's so-and-so?" I was like, "Well, she moved." "Oh, but you're still here." I was like, "Yeah, we're still here." "My daughter's doing great." I was like, "Oh, who's your daughter?" Went to the first tutoring programs. He said, "Yeah, she didn't think she was going to get into college. She got into college." I said, "Of course she got into college. We knew she was smart." He said, and that's why I'm bringing my niece. It's like, see, that's great. The other thing that I think happens is that for other programs we have, trust built with one obviously flows to other stuff, right? So knowing people, Tim meets people at the food pantry, which is about a mile away. And then they'll say, "Oh, that English class. Oh, you do that? Oh, your church does that? Oh, your church does that. Oh, you're not a cult." "Yeah, no, we're not." Or "You're not going to make me go to church." It's like, absolutely not. No. Somebody asked me, you can't be Catholic to go to your class, right? And I was like, "No, of course you can be. Come in the door, for heaven's sake." But that trust takes time, I think, for people to build and understand. It is really important, the other takeaway, I think, to listen to what people need. I'm starting to wonder at this point, honestly, if English is the primary thing that people need. It's hard for me to think like that, because I've been teaching English for 25 years. Do I want to give that up? No. But I'm starting to wonder about it. Like, maybe immigration stuff is way more important. I need to really get on that. That ability to change is tough, but it has to happen. Long Beach Unified stopped giving kids homework. We used to be a homework help center. What do we do now? Well, we flex. We play a lot of math games because the kids are behind, right? So they still need that. So I think flexibility to the point of pain and is just part of the deal, part of the course. The pandemic was extremely painful. I hate Zoom. I never want to teach on Zoom ever again. I love Zoom. It kept me connected to people. It kept our church connected to each other. That flexibility was painful. What else can I say about that? So relationship, persistence, flexibility. The last thing I would want to say is that it's been super important for me to recognize that I'm really, how would I say this? That I am not, I don't know quite how to say this. There was somebody a long time ago asked me in an interview for a job over here at actually Hebrew Union College. I worked for Hebrew Union College for a long time. And she said, why do you live here? And I said, well, blah, 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 blah. I'm 25, and it was right after the 1993. It was right after Rodney King. And why do you stay here? Well, I think it's important not to run away from the city. I think it's important to stay. And and she's like, oh, you're an idealist. I was like, yeah, kind of. Okay, I'm still an idealist, but I think the thing that's been important for me to know is that I am receiving so much from what I do. If that is not the sense that you have, I would examine what you're doing and really think about it hard. Particularly the women that I work with have helped me grow in my parenting. I modeled so much of my parenting on my mostly Mexican Guatemalan mothers that I knew. My Lord, they're just beautiful parenting that I was like, whoa, I need to grow in this. I ask them all the time for help, with things that I need to grow in. Sometimes I think about what if I'd stayed in a small town, how crabbed and shriveled my life would be, and go along with that, having a community that is super loving, knows me, cares for me. I think Dick referred to that, in the internal care for me and my heart, and when I get burned out, people that'll say, you're burned out, is so important. I think the lone wolf model is not sustainable.
You'll be alone.
It's a very bad one. So this, I feel like God's heart for me is just this love that has drawn me into something that is an expression of his deep love for me and my community at the same time, like drawing me, hey, you've got a lot of education, come and use that here. I'm going to bless you so much when you get there, in all these ways I couldn't have imagined. So, again, very simple program, not rocket science, but I think extraordinary in building community and being a gift to me. So.